As cities expand and as the urban environment increases into our open spaces, we try to keep remnant forests, little pockets of the native forest, and then we also put parks, green belts, street trees, and all this creates an urban forest. And it's kind of, people have called it an oxymoron. But really, if you go up on a hill around here or other cities and look down across the city, you'll see millions of trees, and that makes up your urban forest.
Before there was any European incursions into this area, the very first ones in the 1700s, the native plant communities would have been what dominated this area, and that would be on the hillsides, things like chaparral and coastal scrub, in lowland areas of grasses and marshlands and so on. You would not see the number of trees that you now see.
As we moved in, built homes, started planting plants from various places around the world, the environment changed.
There is no such thing as a native urban forest. Most urban forests are made of non-native trees. Only 6% of all the species that are found in suburban and urban areas in California are from California. Many of California's native trees don't do well in urban places. The area between the sidewalk and the street is a harsh place. It has to be a pretty special tree in order to do well in an urban forest. And we've brought those from all over the world, and some of them do very well and are very successful and do shockingly well in very small areas. When the vegetation changes, like it has because humans have planted all these trees, the ecology of a place can change as well. A number of animals use the urban forest as habitat now, where that habitat would not have been here before then. It's hard to determine whether or not that is just change and not necessarily advantage.
As we expand and build, we have to put plants there to help mitigate those damages to the environment.
2008 was the first year on the planet in which there are more people now living in urban places than in rural places. That trend is projected out 50 years from now that there'll be 70% of the world's population living in urban places. We want to obviously give those people the benefits of forests, of trees.
Where the tree crew works into the Public Works Division is that we take care of street trees, and then we also take care of trees in the parks. Our goal is to maintain the urban forest and keep that canopy of green living tissue that's absorbing carbon from the atmosphere, giving off oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis. There's so many benefits to trees. If you have a nice canopy of trees over a roadway, they keep their particulate matter from circulating up into the atmosphere so we don't breathe it as much. They help keep the city's temperature regulated, reduces your heating and cooling costs, keeps people from running their air conditioners as much, and trees help to slow the flow of water so that it actually soaks in and recharges the groundwater. Areas that have street trees and have green belts have much lower rates of crime, especially violent crime. People's blood pressure is reduced when they're underneath the canopy or in green spaces. Say you're walking around downtown San Luis. There's all those big ficus trees down there. There's the Mission Plaza. There's the Creek Walk. There's all that greenery and space. People have a tendency to hang out longer and spend more money and pay more for goods and services in those areas.
Property values are higher, water runoff and rain events is less problematic, erosional events are less problematic, air is cleaner, places are cooler, people feel better in places where there are nice big trees. The urban forest is an extremely important thing. It's going to continue to be more and more important as people live more and more in urban places. We do need more trees, more individual trees, more numbers of trees. We need more diversity of species. Planting trees, though, without maintenance and care is problematic.
People tend to think of a tree as like a street light, like a static thing that doesn't take a whole lot of maintenance. But it's a dynamic thing. It's growing, it's moving, it's sometimes failing in storms. So there has to be a certain degree of maintenance to maintain that.
The average lifespan of a tree in an urban place in California is 10 years. The environmental challenges that a tree in an urban place faces are extreme. Dry soil for long periods of time, compacted soil, very little drainage area, bad soil with very few nutrients in it, pollution, people, vandalism, trucks, all kinds of things like that can lead to the death of a tree in an urban place. And so a 30, 40, 50-year-old tree in the urban forest has gone through a lot, and it's survived a lot in order to be an old tree.
These are the trees that we have on our inventory. These are just the manicured parks and the street trees that we have in San Luis. You look at the whole city, that's roughly 18,000 trees under our direct jurisdiction. A lot of people from council on down are all about planting trees and let's plant more trees, but we also need the ability to maintain those trees. In a natural forest, a tree grows up, it becomes decayed, it falls over, it dies, new trees spring up. But in an urban setting, we have to make that happen. We have the lumberjack tree trimmer kind of guys, but they're more specialized. They're fine pruning lumberjacks. They're sort of lumberjack scientists. Most of our guys are certified arborists. They know about trees, growth, where they can be planted, where they shouldn't be planted, the biology, chemistry, the science behind growing and cultivating trees. So what Steve's doing here is he's not only clearing the roadway, because trucks have a tendency to hook some of these lower branches, but he's making some thinning cuts in appropriate locations by opening them up just a little bit so that the wind can blow through and taking off some of their heavy ends. It allows them to stand up during storms.
Hi, my name's Steve. I'd like to invite you for a tour of my office. It's pretty peaceful. I get a lot done up there. And this is, you'll get a true definition of an urban forest.
That's Laguna Lake Park. So this area here where there's concentrated trees is our Commemorative Grove.
This is a Commemorative Grove, and we plant trees in memoriam for people. This was a jacaranda tree that the gophers got into. You can see how the gophers have kind of eaten their way around here. Kind of make these out of chicken wire. This gives the roots of the young trees a good fighting chance to get established before the gophers can eat them. So I highly recommend finding a young man to do all the digging. This is a harsh environment for trees out here. It's a great place for people to walk through, but the reality is we got really harsh winds out here. In the summertime it blows really hot out here in the winds, and then in the winter it's kind of cold, but we're gonna give this one another chance. The best way to kill a tree is to plant it too deep. So we're gonna plant this right at soil level. You gotta be like a real strong, like a He-Man, almost like a superhero kind of a guy to do this. That's why I did this one. You don't want to stake it up so tight that the root system never has a chance to wiggle. The wind blowing through the foliage actually helps the tree, signals the trees instinctually to set roots. I'll come back about once a week and check on this tree, give it some water if it needs it. We plant the tree, we take care of the trees, maintain the trees, then we have to remove the trees as they get old, sick, or if they become a hazard. And here's what we're using those old trees for, right back into the loop. So this will decompose, biodegrade, and go back into the soil and nourish the soil, nourish this tree. And probably, 75, 80 years, I'll be back and take this tree out. I probably won't be moving quite as fast as I am now. Pretty fast right now.
witnessed Steve in the bucket trimming one tree. It's kind of a small tree comparatively to some of the trees that we have. And it took about an hour total with the cleanup. So you think one tree, medium to small size tree, takes 1 hour, and we have around 20,000 trees that we do regular maintenance on. You do the math behind that, it can be mind-boggling. And we seem to be getting further and further behind as the years go on.
Most municipalities in California are losing funding for the services that are required to maintain the urban forest.
As the city annexes areas and as we plant more trees in center medians that come online, new parks have come online, so our inventory of trees and areas of responsibility are growing, but our budget has actually been shrinking the last 10 years. If we prune the trees on this street, you can see they're very low over the street. They need maintenance, they need care. It'll be about another 8 years before we come around, and that number seems to be growing. I've got a lot of arborist friends in other cities, and they have the same issues with coming up with enough funding to adequately maintain their urban forest. Utilizing volunteers has been very critical to keep our operation going. Well, we're having a citizen-based tree planting event here with the neighbors in the neighborhood, and then some of the younger folks that you see are Cal Poly students from the arboriculture class. The street used to be lined with large carob trees, but these trees were about 80 years old, so they had some significant decay. Through the years, we've removed them, Mother Nature's removed them, so today we're just kind of reforesting this neighborhood. Get a lot of people helping us out, and that seems to be the trend as urban forests grow, but our maintenance budgets don't. We're going to have to use more and more volunteers into the future. Urban trees have a finite lifespan. They're removed for various reasons. They become unstable. They have decay ratio builds up too much, and they need to be removed for liabilities. They blow over in storms, and so there's all this good hardwood that's been, in years past, has gone to waste. Our city here has a closed loop system. When we do tree plantings, we use the wood chips. Our Parks Department utilizes the wood chips, but about once a year we do a wood chip giveaway, and the citizens from San Luis come in, we load their trucks up. And here's a good example of some wood that we recently dropped off at the local mill. There's such a variety of trees from all over the world that we have in our urban forest. It makes a nice hardwood market.
We take most of the urban wood solid waste in the community and surrounding community as well, and we repurpose this material so that it can be used by everybody.
If we're using our urban wood, then we don't have to use those natural forests as much, and it relieves some of the pressure on those natural forests.
There was a landfill reduction law that was passed, and urban wood was a possible 10% of that total. And so the message was clear. There was a lot of material that could be diverted, and it certainly excited us. We're one of the very few companies doing what we do that has survived in the whole of the nation. We get a lot of exotic material out of an urban wood that they don't get in an ordinary forest, such as sycamores, local black walnuts, olive wood, historic wood. A lot of times the figure that you get out of an urban tree won't be like anything you can get anywhere else. They grow in difficult conditions, and so they have tension wood or compression wood. These things develop such incredible beauty that's just amazingly pretty wood. Tree trimmers trim branches off, and then these branches grow back over. Who knows, another 30 or 40 years of growth over the top of them, to me is fascinating, and it tells all kinds of stories.
It's great to go over to Don's and look at what he has. It's always changing. You know, he'll get an acacia tree or redwood tree or walnut tree and all different sizes, and you don't know what it is until you cut it open and see what's inside of it. It looks kind of gnarly right now, you know? I mean, it's just, you don't really know what's under there. And when you put it through the time saver, you sand it up, And you go, oh man, there's a lot of beauty under there. This specific board came from Arroyo Grande. There's a new wing to the high school being built. They had to take down a couple walnut trees. They took it over to Don. Don milled it up, kind of goes through a couple people until it gets to me. This is something I do, kind of call it the organic carving. And I try to follow all the lines, kind of do what the wood directs. All the sapwood, and bring out the knots and the grain as much as possible. A lot of people, when you go to the lumber store, they try to avoid anything that looks to them as defect or something. And I kind of think it's cool to kind of accentuate those things and bring them out.
We're all about preserving our way of life within the city. It's an investment. You have to plant them, you have to maintain them, prune them, remove them, dispose of them, but the benefits far outweigh the investment. A lot of people go down this tree-lined street and they realize subconsciously that it's there, but they don't know that it's there.
Because if we don't have that and people don't appreciate all the organisms around us and the legacy of our wonderful flora in the San Luis Obispo area and in California, then it can disappear. And if you give a person a name of a thing, then a story comes with that, and natural history stories are interesting. People begin to wonder what other trees are, and it's a small step caring about plants in general and caring about conservation in general, which is what we need as a public.
People are recognizing the character and the history and the tree itself and what it's saying to us, and it's engaging us in the world around us.